Hey everyone, Dr. Beyer of Functional Medicine Solutions, and this video tip is about what constitutes a complete thyroid panel, what markers should be checked for on a blood test to determine if you're having thyroid dysfunction. Now, if you haven't already watched the video or you're not aware of this fact, you should understand that it's not enough just to measure enough markers, but you need to understand that those markers that we measure on a blood test should fall within the optimal or the functional range. Just falling within the lab range is not enough. I have a video about that, and so I'd encourage you to watch that if you're not aware of that fact, because while it's important to check for the different thyroid markers, if you're just looking for those different markers to fall within the lab range, you still could miss a problem. So watch that video if you haven't already. Lab ranges, I think, is the title of it. But assuming you know that, what constitutes a complete thyroid panel? It's definitely more than TSH and T4. That's typically what the medical doctors check for. That's only what they check for, because they're, in their pharmaceutically oriented approach, are thinking that if there's a thyroid dysfunction, it must be because the gland's just not producing enough hormone. And since thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH, is responsible to stimulate the thyroid gland to make hormone, and since the majority of the hormone coming from the gland is T4, like over 90%, they just measure TSH and total T4 levels. But the fact of the matter is that in the United States, low production of thyroid hormone, which is called primary hypothyroid, is responsible for hypothyroid a low percentage of the time. So a lot of problems are missed for that reason, because again, they're thinking, hey, if a patient has low thyroid, it must be because of a lack of production of hormone from the gland. So they only measure TSH and total T4 levels. What should be checked is not only the TSH and the total T4, but the free or available T4. And then again, as I talk about in a different video, T3, which is the active thyroid hormone, should be measured both in the total amounts and in the free or the available amounts. Because a common pattern of thyroid dysfunction is for there to be enough T4 levels, T4 hormone levels, but the body's not converting the T4 into the T3. And so in that case, if you're only measuring T4, you'd miss the problem, because the T4 levels would be normal. In addition to checking the total and free or available levels of T4 and T3, the thyroid binding globulin levels should be measured. That's the carrier protein responsible for moving the thyroid hormone through the bloodstream. And abnormalities in the levels of the TBG, thyroid binding globulin, can cause some low functioning thyroid. There needs to be antibody levels checked, because that's the most common cause of low functioning thyroid, is an immune system attack or an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's, where the immune system is mistakenly recognizing the gland as foreign. So TPO antibodies and TGB, or thyroglobulin antibodies, should be measured. TPO is an enzyme in the gland that makes thyroid hormone, or responsible for it, and TGB, thyroglobulin, is the building block protein of the T3 and T4. So the antibody level should be checked. There's a marker called T3 uptake, which gives us an idea of how well the thyroid binding globulin, okay, the TBG, is able to carry thyroid hormone through the bloodstream. And sometimes people, women who have estrogen dominance issues, will have their T3 uptake levels low, because estrogen is taking up an abnormal amount of the binding sites on this carrier protein. And so the thyroid hormones can be a normal amount, the T3 and T4, but if the T3 uptake levels are low, that means the thyroid binding globulin can't get the thyroid hormone to where it needs to go. And so that should be measured also. Sometimes docs will measure a thing called reverse T3, which would be up in high stress states. Sometimes I check that, sometimes I don't, but for sure the TSH, the total and free T3, the total and free T4, the T3 uptake levels, the thyroid binding globulin levels, and both antibody levels, both TPO and thyroglobulin antibody levels. And then you need to be working with a doc who knows how to interpret what the results of those measurements are. There's a story that the blood test tells. It's not enough just to, hey, let's measure this and measure that. You need to know exactly, hey, if this is high or this is low, it means there's this pattern of thyroid dysfunction. So it's not enough just to kind of measure all kinds of stuff. You need to know, what the functional ranges are and what the story that the blood test is telling based on what's high or what's low. So hope you found that available. That's what we do in our office in conjunction with measuring a lot of other things on our initial blood chemistry panel, checking for a variety of other issues that I'll talk about in other videos. So hope you found this helpful. A lot of other information on my website. If you're not there already, it's functionalmedicinesolutions.net. And as always, I'm here to help. If you have any questions, email our office or give a call. If you just want to pick my brain a little bit, we do free 15-minute Ask Dr. Beyer sessions.